My mother-in-law, Jenny, has been horrible to me forever. She was extremely critical of my weight and looks. My husband, Atlas, is a very handsome man, while I'm average at best. I'm also very curvy, while he is fit. No matter what our differences are, we love each other. And that's what matters. That was what we had fought, but Jenny absolutely refused to accept me as her daughter-in-law. Because in her words, I was ugly and fat. I can't begin to tell you how many times she had made fun of me and told me that Atlas would leave me very soon. Frank, his father, was a decent man and was never nasty to me, so no hate for him, please. Even on that day, I was getting married to her son, and she walked up to me and told me that Atlas wouldn't last in a marriage with me. She said that he would get bored of me and dump me very soon. And that's why she hadn't bothered to try and ruin my wedding. What should have been the happiest day of my life was turned into a sad day because of my cruel mother-in-law. After we got married, Jenny regularly made comments about me and told Atlas that he should be careful before planning a family with me. She always acted like we would divorce in a few months. Around 1.5 years into our marriage, Atlas got fed up with her behavior and went low contact with her. We were all set to continue that low contact before something surprising happened to us. One day we found out that I was pregnant. We also found out that I was carrying a boy. It was an unplanned pregnancy, but we were both happy with the news. We were looking forward to having our baby and were really excited. That's when Atlas and I had to sit down and discuss something serious. I knew that the topic of Jenny had been on my husband's mind for the past few days, so we needed to discuss that immediately. He sat down with me and said, "What should we do about my parents, Faith? We need to tell them." Yes, this is their first grandchild, so they should know. I was hoping you'd be willing to give my mother another chance. I know she's been horrible to you, but maybe she'll finally get her act together for her grandson. I'm not really sure about this, Atlas, but you are right that they need to know about their grandchild. Maybe Jenny would be a good grandma to our son. I guess we shouldn't withhold that experience from him. That's what I was thinking, Faith. Why don't we give her another chance? Let's see if she makes amends on her own. What do you want to do, Atlas? Will you go visit my parents together? We'll break the news there. I was uncomfortable being around Jenny because of her horrible attitude towards me, but I also knew that I had to get used to it. If she ended up being a loving grandma, she would be in my life constantly. I wouldn't deprive my son of her affection, so I may have to put up with her anyway. Thinking of all those things, I decided to give Jenny a chance. I agreed to go with Atlas to his parents' house and break the news to them in person. We told them we were coming over, and Jenny was glad because she hadn't seen Atlas because of our low contact. When we arrived at the house, she happily ran up to us and tried to hug Atlas, but she froze when she saw my slightly protruding belly. She pointed at my belly and said, "What is that? Are you pregnant?" "Yes, Jenny, I'm pregnant." "Is she telling the truth, Atlas? Are you two having a child?" "Yes, Mom, that's why we're here. We wanted to tell you and Dad in person that we are expecting a boy." Atlas and I happily announced our big news to Jenny and Frank. Frank was overjoyed and kept hugging and congratulating us. He had the reaction that we had expected, but Jenny remained frozen on her spot. Very slowly she backed away from us with a shocked look on her face. I was immediately thrown off by her behavior, and after a while she started to shake her head in disbelief and said, No, this can't be happening. Tell me this is a joke." "What do you mean, Mom? Why will this be a joke? We are really expecting a child. Aren't you happy for us?" "No, I am not happy for you. I'm extremely mad right now." "Why, Mom? What's the matter?" "That woman cannot have my grandson. No, this can't happen to me. What's the matter, Mom? Why are you reacting this way? What are you thinking getting her pregnant, Atlas? She is completely unfit to have my grandson. She has the worst genes, and my grandson will turn out to be ugly and dumb. Everyone was taken aback by what my mother-in-law said. Even Frank was in shock because he hadn't expected Jenny to react so badly to this good news. Atlas was gobsmacked and stared at his mother in disbelief. I was high on hormones and immediately started to cry because I felt utterly humiliated. I quietly sobbed in my place and had a hard time forming words. Frank was the first one to break the silence. He said, "What are you talking about, Jenny? Have you gone mad?" "No, I haven't gone mad, but our son sure is. Look at what he did, Frank. This is horrible. Oh, my God." "Oh, really, Mom? Tell me what's so horrible about what I did." "First, you married that ugly, fat woman and didn't even listen to me when I said she doesn't belong to our family. Then you went ahead and got her pregnant. How could you be so careless, Atlas? Now my grandson will look like his ugly mother, and I'll have to accept that." I couldn't believe that she would call her own grandson ugly if he turned out to look like me. I know I'm not the best-looking girl on the planet, and I can take her insults to an extent, but she was straight up calling my future child ugly, and that was crossing my limits. In my pregnancy-induced rage, I yelled at Jenny through my tears and said, "How can you call your own grandson ugly, Jenny? I can understand that you don't like me, but how can you judge your unborn grandson? If he turns out like you, I swear I'll have a heart attack. I thought that once Atlas married you, he would finally realize what a big mistake he'd made. Then he would divorce you and find a better girl. But I see that you have baby-trapped my son and absolutely destroyed his life." "I baby-trapped your son, Jenny? Is that what you're saying? How can I baby-trap your son when we are already married? You knew he would leave you sooner or later. Who would want to stay with you, let alone have a baby with you?" Yeah, Jenny was being extra brutal to me that day. She was legit crying and lamenting how her grandchildren would now be ugly like me. I was already feeling a little more ugly because of the pregnancy weight gain, and coupled with Jenny's horrible comment, I wanted to just go and bury myself in a hole. I too started to cry loudly because Jenny had successfully ruined the happiness I had from being pregnant. Atlas rushed to my side to comfort me while I bawled. Jenny sat there looking pissed but also with tears in her eyes. Frank didn't know what to do and sat there in disbelief. After a while, Atlas looked at his mother with the most disgusted and angry expression I have ever seen on his face. He held me close to him and said to his mother, "You have crossed all limits today, Mom. How could you make my pregnant wife cry? You need to apologize to her right now." "I'm not apologizing to that woman. You need to wake up and open your eyes, Atlas. This woman isn't worth your time." "She is my wife, Mom. I love her and she's more than enough for me. I'm going to start a family with her, and nothing makes me happier than this." "You should have listened to me and taken precautions so that she doesn't get pregnant. God knows whose baby she's carrying. Maybe she slept with someone else and is trying to pass off the child as yours. But then again, who would want her?" "Shut the hell up, Mom. How dare you speak about faith like that? Who gave you the right to insult her? I'm telling you one last time, Mom. Apologize to my fiancé right now." "No, I won't apologize to her. I meant every word that I said, and I don't want her to have my grandson. It's the truth." Atlas now looked even madder than usual. Jenny was adamant that she didn't do or say anything wrong. She huffed and sat there with her arms crossed. She even refused to look at me, probably because she couldn't handle the sight of me with a pregnant belly. Atlas noticed it all and then said in an eerily calm voice, "So, you don't want my wife to carry your grandson, right?" "Yes, I don't want that woman to give me a grandson." "Well then, you will no longer have a grandson or a son anymore." "What? What do you mean, Atlas?" "I mean that me and my family will be going no contact with you, Mom. You don't want an ugly daughter-in-law and grandson, as you put it very well. You won't have to associate with us anymore." Jenny was taken aback when Atlas said that. He was telling her straight up that she wouldn't be in our lives anymore. Jenny was in shock, and so was I. I had expected and hoped that Atlas would stand up for me, but I hadn't realized that he would talk about cutting Jenny off entirely. No one had expected that at all. Jenny looked at Atlas in disbelief and said, You would cut me off for that worthless woman?" "She is not worthless, Mom. Faith is my everything, and so is my child. I have no problem cutting you off to protect my wife and child from you." "How can you even think about that, Atlas? I'm your mother. I carried you for 9 months and brought you into this world." "I'm grateful for that, Mom. Believe me, I truly am. And that's why I hadn't cut you off sooner. But I draw the line when you act so viciously towards my wife and child." "You're not thinking straight, Atlas. You cannot cut me off for Faith. You cannot keep me away from my grandchild." "Well, watch me do that, Mom. You already said what you said. Now it's time for you to face some consequences." Jenny kept asking Atlas if he was serious. She tried to say how he was being super unfair and that she was only looking out for him and his unborn child. After a lot of back and forth, it became clear that Atlas was seriously going to cut her off. That's when she turned pale. When the thought finally sunk in, Jenny started to cry loudly and said, "I can't believe this. My own son is threatening to cut me off for another woman." "You seem to be forgetting that my wife is not just another woman. You will treat her with respect. Although I don't expect that from you anymore, I'm not making threats, Mom. I've decided I want nothing to do with you." "You are really overreacting, Atlas. You can't do this to me. I want to be in my grandson's life." "Well, I don't want to keep you in his life. My son doesn't need a judgmental, cruel grandmother like you. He is better off having only one grandmother, and that is Faith's mother." No, Atlas, please don't say that." Okay, I'll try not to make these comments about your wife again. Are you happy now?" "No, I'm not happy. This is not enough, Mom. When I gave you the chance to apologize to my wife, you didn't do that. You don't get to claim that you will behave now." "I'm already telling you that I will try to act civil. If you really love that wife of yours so much, I'll deal with it. I've been dealing with her anyway, haven't I?" "I don't believe a word out of your mouth anymore, Mom. You have been nasty to my wife, and you insult her every chance you get. That's why I went low contact with you in the first place. I came back here with Faith because I thought you would be happy to hear about our pregnancy. Now that I know about your feelings, I don't want me or my wife and child around you." At this point, Jenny suddenly remembered the fact that we did go low contact with her after she repeatedly kept humiliating me. She finally realized that there was a big possibility that Atlas would cut her off for good. He had stuck to his word before and can readily do it again. Once that realization clouded her brain, she was able to see things clearly as they were. She was about to lose her son and grandson for good. And that's when she changed tunes and tried to appease Atlas by saying, "I understand that I've upset your wife, Atlas. I was high on emotions and said some bad things. I may have hurt her feelings. I was just looking out for you." "No, you weren't looking out for me. You were trying to separate me from my wife because she doesn't match your beauty standards. For the last 2 years, you have been horrible to her, and I'm finally putting my foot down." No, Atlas, don't say that. Okay, I realize that I made a huge mistake. Please don't punish me like this. I swear I will change and learn to accept Faith." "I think it's too late for that now, Mom. I want nothing to do with you anymore. I'm pretty sure my wife feels the same way and will agree with your decision." "I swear I will correct my behavior, Atlas. Just give me a chance. Faith, please give me a chance. I really want to be in my grandson's life." Jenny was desperate for help and turned to me. She thought that, like always, I would readily forgive her and ask my husband to give her another chance. She was looking at me expectantly and was almost sure that I would be on her side. But I'd already been pushed to my limits. There was no way I was going to forgive this woman. I held my head high and said, "I don't care what you want, Jenny. I will never forgive you or give you another chance. I have given you plenty of chances, but you have shown me what a vile person you are." "How can you be so cruel to me, Faith? I'm your mother-in-law and your Bray's grandma." "What mother-in-law, Jenny? You never accepted me as your daughter-in-law. And you have clearly said that you didn't want me to carry your grandson, so the baby in my belly is no one to you." "I said some things out of anger, Faith. I was not thinking straight. I can see how wrong I was. Please forgive me and convince my son not to cut me off." "I'm not going to do what you want, Jenny. In fact, I will do the opposite. I will support Atlas in cutting you off. Frank is welcome, but you are not." But your son needs his grandma in his life." "No, Jenny, he doesn't. Atlas is right, Jenny. My son doesn't need a judgmental and prejudiced grandma like you. I don't want you around my child, and you better stay away from me because I don't even want to see your face anymore." At this point, Jenny started to cry and went to my husband for help. She decided that it was time to play the victim card. Let me tell you guys right now, it didn't work on Atlas at all. It had the opposite effect entirely. When Jenny said this, Atlas got super mad. "Did you see that, Atlas? I tried to make things right with your wife, but she wouldn't listen to me. I begged her so hard." "My wife is right in rejecting your apologies, Mom. You don't deserve her forgiveness after what you have put her through." "Then what do I do, Atlas? Tell me how I'll make it right." "You cannot make things right, Mom. You have gone too far for us to even consider forgiving you. From now on, you will no longer have the privilege of having a relationship with me and my family. We're done here." Jenny was having none of it and constantly begged us for forgiveness. Atlas and I kept telling her that she had crossed all limits and now she has to pay for her actions. When Jenny grew tired of begging us for forgiveness, she turned to the one person who could potentially be on her side. She asked my father-in-law for help. She said, "Are you going to sit there and watch my son abandon me, Frank? Say something. Don't you want your son in your life?" "Yes, I do want my son in my life." "Then what are you waiting for, Frank? Help me convince Atlas that he's making a mistake." "I don't think he's making a mistake, Jenny. He's right to cut you off because you have been a horrible person to his wife." "What? Will you also take their side?" "Yes, they're doing nothing wrong. They graciously gave you another chance after finding out about the pregnancy, but you blew that royally. Now you don't get to come and demand that they forgive you." Jenny was surprised to know that even my father-in-law was supporting us instead of her. Frank had always been nice to me, but he had a hard time dealing with his crazy wife. But this time he actually sided with us and spoke in my favor. I was so grateful for his support that I had tears in my eyes again. I said, "Thank you so much, Frank. It truly means a lot to me to have your support." "I'm here for you, Faith. You've been a lovely daughter-in-law, and I know you make my son happy. You don't deserve the treatment Jenny's given you." "Thanks for understanding, Frank. This is why you are not getting cut off, but Jenny is." "No, you won't keep me away from my son and grandbaby. I won't allow it. Atlas, please don't do this." Jenny now realized that she was truly backed into a corner. She was crying and alternating between getting mad at us and begging us for mercy. It was bizarre seeing her so unhinged. I felt unsafe around her and left with my husband soon after. When we were leaving, Jenny tried to follow us and lunged at me from behind, but Frank caught her first, and the two started to argue. Atlas took me home to make sure I was safe. He later called his father and found out that they had a big fight. Atlas and I went no contact with Jenny as we had decided. I went home and asked Atlas if he was sure about this, and he actually said to me, "I'm sorry, Faith. I should not have taken you back to my parents' house. You had to listen to all of Mom's bullcrap because of me." It's okay, Atlas. It was a joint decision, so I don't blame you. I was also hoping Jenny would be a decent grandma, so I wanted her in my son's life.
Forget my mother, Faith. She doesn't deserve us. I've allowed her to badmouth you and insult you a lot. I promise I won't let that happen again. I will do my duty and protect you and our child.
I forgave my husband because he didn't do anything wrong. I was glad he stood up for me and told him so. I was proud of my husband when I gushed about how he put his mother in her place. Atlas and I actually laughed about it when we were home. Pregnancy hormones are crazy, man. So Atlas and I went no contact and also informed everyone in the family what Jenny had done. Frank also verified our account so that Jenny doesn't spin tales to make us look bad. Most family members sided with us and told us that we did the right thing. There were a few who wanted us to forgive Jenny, but we ignored that. The pregnancy was a roller coaster ride with Jenny showing up and trying to force her way back into our lives. She didn't get much of an opportunity because we shut her out and even called the cops once. She had been removed from my baby shower and even thrown out of the hospital when I gave birth. Atlas and I welcomed our baby boy 5 months ago. I'm recovering well and was able to safely deliver my child. We are over the moon as new parents and adjusting to our new life. But Jenny had been creating trouble for us as well. The good news is that we are filing a restraining order against her. She made some graphic threats against me, and I took all those texts to the cops. They took me seriously and told me that they would conduct a welfare check on her. Frank has also seen Jenny's unhinged version and has decided to divorce her for taking things too far. He was already pretty unhappy in the marriage, and this was the final push. Last I heard, Jenny was going to move to her sister's house in the next state. Since Frank was divorcing her, they had to leave their previous home and find separate accommodation. She never worked before, so she didn't have much money saved, so she had to move in with her sister, who offered to host her for free. I'm actually happy with this outcome for several reasons. Now, we can have Frank over for free and have him babysit sometimes. We also didn't have to worry about Jenny harming me because she is far away now. So in the end, my mother-in-law ended up losing her son, grandson, husband, and even the roof over her head. Serves her right. Don't you agree, guys?